As the humanitarian situation in Gaza collapses under the weight of daily massacres at food distribution sites, U.S. President Donald Trump insists that a ceasefire deal could be reached this week or next. Trump met Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu twice in 48 hours in Washington, while Axios revealed secret White House talks between U.S., Qatari and Israeli officials, with the central sticking point being whether the occupation army will agree to withdraw from large parts of Gaza during the 60-day truce. Meanwhile, hospitals in Gaza are overwhelmed by mass casualties from Israeli attacks targeting Palestinians seeking food amid the fuel blockade. The Israeli-American-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is under fire as more than 600 Palestinians have been killed at its food sites in the past month. At the same time, the United States has imposed sanctions against Francesca Albanese, the U.S. Special Rapporteur who exposed Israeli war crimes and accused Washington of shielding genocide. Will the talks yield any results this time to end the humanitarian suffering in Gaza? Can Trump push for an agreement before Netanyahu leaves Washington? I'm Rana Al-Qassas and welcome to In Depth. According to a report by Axios, senior U.S., Israeli and Qatari officials held a secret meeting at the White House to address the final major obstacle in the ongoing Gaza ceasefire and detainee negotiations. The key sticking point is the extent of the Israeli occupation military's withdrawal from the Gaza Strip during the proposed 60-day truce. President Trump, who met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu twice in 48 hours, is pushing hard for a deal, with U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff stating that 3 out of 4 major issues have already been resolved, according to Axios. Tensions flared over Israel's proposed redeployment map, which both U.S. and Qatari officials warned was unacceptable and would be rejected by Hamas. However, Israel reportedly offered a revised map with wider withdrawal lines, prompting progress in the talks. The current deal includes the release of 10 live detainees and the remains of 18 others. Trump confirmed progress and said, "We're getting very close to a deal," while Hamas emphasized the need for a full withdrawal and long-term guarantees, Axios added.
Gaza's humanitarian system is on the verge of total collapse. At Nasser Hospital in Qnews, patients lie on the floor, treated for gunshots, many injured while trying to reach food aid. Medical officials say more than 600 Palestinians have been killed and over 4,500 injured between May and July the 2nd, mostly near 8 sites run by the United States and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump says a ceasefire deal is very close and could be reached this week or the next one. In Washington, Trump met Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu twice in 48 hours. Axios revealed secret talks in the White House involving U.S., Israeli, and Qatari officials. The main obstacle is reportedly Israel's refusal to commit to a fully military withdrawal during a proposed 60-day truce. On the other hand, and aligning with their continuous efforts to shut international voices condemning Israel's crimes in Gaza, the U.S. imposed sanctions on United Nations Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese for accusing Israel of genocide. Albanese responded by saying she will continue to stand on the side of justice. Hospitals now face a new threat: no fuel. UN officials warn all humanitarian operations may stop imminently unless Israel allows fuel in, and Gaza is in need for a ceasefire more than ever.
For more analysis, we're joined from Occupy Jerusalem by Ratiba Nacha, Palestinian National Action Committee member, and from Paris by Majid Boudin, the international law professor. A very warm welcome to our program In Depth today. Dr. Boudin, we start off with you. Trump said there's a very good chance for a ceasefire this week or the next, and reports saying that 3 of 4 major sticking points are resolved. Given past stalled talks, how credible is this optimism, and what political leverage does Trump have to enforce it, especially while Netanyahu is still in Washington, sir?
Well, President Trump is doing now what he has planned to do, and he must obtain a ceasefire, first of all, for himself and for his policy. And Netanyahu is depending on Trump's will and on the U.S. will. And Hamas is in a very bad situation after this massacre. So the ceasefire can be close. The problem is whether this ceasefire will be for a reasonable period, or will be for a long period, or it will be for it could be reversed or not. And this is the key point. The region will have the ceasefire, Gaza will have a ceasefire, but how it will last? This is the major point. And what is the political issue after the ceasefire?
Okay, Dr. Boudin, you said that U.S. President Donald Trump wants to obtain a ceasefire for himself and the policy. And you also mentioned that it is Netanyahu's will, and of course under the auspices and will of the United States will. Netanyahu is counting on this, but on the other side, Hamas is in a very bad situation. And do you think for this reason, sir, or the number of reasons that you mentioned, then Hamas has to go for this ceasefire and has no other option, or Hamas can put conditions for this ceasefire? And as you mentioned at the end of your answer, will the ceasefire be like the other ceasefires, or will it actually go into action and we get rid and Gaza goes into a ceasefire forever?
Hamas has no power now to impose conditions. They have chosen the way of using force, and now they're in a weak position regarding the use of force. So they could bargain, they could discuss, but in the end, Trump will impose the ceasefire and will obtain from Hamas to accept the ceasefire, even against the policy of Hamas. But in the end of the day, there are 2 points. First of all the Arab countries in the region, they want to have Gaza ruled by an administration which will
the
not
Palestinian administration.
A Palestinian administration without any war anymore, and to find a peaceful solution. But Netanyahu, he doesn't want that for the time being. So Trump is trying to obtain from Netanyahu to have a different situation in Gaza.
Okay, I'll leave it there, Mr. Boudin, and we go to Ms. Nacha. Warm welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you today with us in the program. Trump's frustration over not securing a ceasefire victory is becoming visible. How does Netanyahu's political balancing act between U.S. expectations and domestic far-right pressure impact the humanitarian situation in Gaza?
Actually, we didn't know yet what was the deal that Trump and Netanyahu discussed to go with this conclusion that the ceasefire is very near and they can implement ceasefire within a week or something like that. Still everything in a closed room and 4 eyes, and no one knows what the meaning of these words till now. In my opinion, still Israel is very tired from this very long war in Gaza. This is the longest war that ever it entered to.
You said Israel is tired, Dr. Atiba?
Yes.
Israel is tired and it wants to end it, do you think?
I think that they need a rest. They need to have a plan to end this war. I think that the gap between the military and the political actions in Israel is becoming bigger and bigger because of this war. On the other hand, Donald Trump needs this ceasefire. He can go on with his project and investment in the Middle East, and to get like a good deal with Saudi Arabia, the first partner for him in the Middle East. For the Palestinians, they need this ceasefire because they are as well very tired from everyday killing and pumping with a very strong siege with no food and humanitarian aid at all. So everyone needs this ceasefire. But to be honest, everyone is putting or holding a hope that the other part will collapse before him.
Okay,
and
but Dr. Nacha, do you think
a little bit far?
Do you think, like Dr. Bouden said, that Hamas is in a very, very weak position to not impose any conditions at this point?
Yes, Israel, yeah, but the calculation is different in the both sides. The both sides are very tired. The Israeli side is very tired and exhausted in several ways, economically, military, socially, in all these ways, and as well as the Palestinians, they are very tired. When you talk that Hamas is really weak, yes, it's weak, but it haven't anything to lose. More than that, they are in the under the 0 degree of losing things. So we are talking about a complete collapse in Gaza Strip. Nothing worse can happen in Gaza. But on the other side, Israel is really very weak and needs this ceasefire. So this is the question. Who will collapse first and who will put his conditions first? And this is why we are still in negotiation for more than 1 week with no plan for the next day of this war and no real agreement for the ceasefire or the next step after the ceasefire. And this is the real serious question that we must answer it. What is the next day of this war? If we don't have a plan for the next day of the war, that means the ceasefire will be like a very weak and hush deal that can be collapsed in few days and very hard to complete it even the 16 days. Till
Dr.
now,
Atiba, who do you think will collapse first in this deal?
I think that there's a lot of proposals now for the next day of the war in Gaza Strip, but none of these deals is acceptable for everyone. And this is what makes the ceasefire a little far, maybe days or weeks from today till now. And everyone is waiting for the others to accept his plan without any condition. When your guests say that Hamas is very weak and they didn't have any will or meaning to put any condition, so they will accept everything comes from Israel and the United States, he is wrong.
Okay, Dr. Bouden, do you want to answer Dr. Atiba about this point that Hamas is weak and it will accept anything?
I don't think that they will accept anything. I think, yes, they are tired, but
yes, got you, Dr. Atiba. Dr. Bouden, do you want to answer, Dr. Atiba?
What I meant is that the fact Hamas has no the capacities, the military capacities as it has or it had before.
In the past. It doesn't have the tools that it had in the past.
Before October 2023. So this is a fact. There is no discussion about it. Even Hamas is admitting it. They have no supplies anymore from Iran as before. They have no supplies from any place. So they are using their reserves and they are acting on their capacities.
But Dr. Ratiba mentioned, Dr. Boudin, that they have nothing to lose anymore.
Yes.
And when you don't have anything to lose anymore, you don't care anymore.
It's not as straightforward as it is. Hamas has no capability today to impose its conditions. It doesn't mean that they will accept anything, but it doesn't mean that accepting or not accepting is the issue. The issue today that Hamas has accepted to not be part of the next government of Gaza, at least of the, I will not say government, I will say administration for the time being. So
but they agree on
there
this
are discussions.
a year ago.
Sorry?
But they agree on this condition a year ago, not in
Yes,
Yuli, and then nothing happens.
Yeah,
and they agree on that on January 2025 as well, and we didn't reach for the ceasefire. So
yes,
it's not about being on the control or in the authority or not. It's not the real question.
There is a difference between accepting by words to not be part of the government and continue to act so to prevent the creation of a new administration. This is the difference. So the fact is today, even Hamas doesn't have anything to lose. It's not completely true because Hamas, they have the fear to be destroyed completely. But they know that Netanyahu doesn't want to destroy Hamas completely because he needs Hamas to continue his policy. This is the game. And this is why we have to be careful about the straightforward interpretations. So, and this is why Donald Trump is trying to impose this ceasefire to allow at least a breath for his public opinion. And he cannot continue this war. He made some it's considered as achievements with Iran. He made the situation is different now in the Middle East. This is a fact on the ground. It's a fact. Now the problem is how to build a new solution. There is no agreement now on solution.
Got your point. Dr. Ratiba mentioned that there's nothing that yet any point about this ceasefire has yet been revealed. Ms. Nacha, Israel continues to block fuel in organizations like the UN, ICRC, and others say this is causing collapse, while Israel is committing massacres every day with over 55 killed just today. Is this policy rooted in strategy and a way of politically pressuring the other side in the talks as they're talking in Washington now, Netanyahu and Trump?
Actually, if you are talking about the people, yes, the people are tired. If you are talking about the humanitarian situation, it's really collapsed. Not today, not since a year ago, maybe more than that. We are now talking about the day 643 of this war. So yes, it's a very, very serious situation in a humanitarian level. But if you want me to be honest, 77 years ago, a third of the Palestinian people were killed. The other third was transferred out of Palestine. And the third that left on Palestine are struggling till now to have their independent state. So it's not an easy it's not an easy question. I know that the Palestinian case is a very, very complicated. And when we are talking about accepting the Israeli condition, we are talking about accepting the occupation. Yes, Israel, very strong military state, and we have
backed by the United States,
this,
Dr. Ms.
Yes,
Nacha, backed by the United States.
They are very strong.
It wouldn't be militarily strong.
They can kill all the Palestinians as well. They can transfer maybe half of the Palestinian as well. Yes, they can do all of these things. But is it acceptable for the Palestinian to sign on for occupation, reoccupation, the Palestinian territory? They can't. Can they sign for letting their rights, historical rights? No, they can't. So you ask us for a lot. And it means a lot for the Palestinian, these conditions. So it's really very complicated. We need, like, the United States to behave like a great state and to walk forward to stable situation in the Middle East. And that needs to be, or this need that the United States can implement a real ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, and to implement a plan for the next day of this war that keep the Palestinian rights on their lands and their right of having a state. And in this way, we can have a real peace in the Middle East. We can achieve a stable situation in the Middle East. Without all of these things, nothing means that having no Hamas in Gaza Strip.
Before Got your point, Dr. Atiba. I'll be back again. Dr. Boudin.
And after Hamas, we will do as well. So you can't make real peace and stable situation just by ending Hamas from exist or having like a very tired and hungry people in Palestine. It's not the way. The real way is to have a real peace by having Palestinian state inside of the Israeli state. Without this solution, everything will collapse. If not in days or months, it will be
Got
in
your
years.
point, Dr. Atiba. Dr. Boudin, EU has reportedly reached an agreement with Israel to expand aid routes into Gaza and increase number of trucks to alleviate the humanitarian crisis. How do you view this diplomatic development and your take on Dr. Nacha's, of course, narrative?
Yes, we have to make a difference between the conditions of the ceasefire, the conditions of the ending of this war, the conditions of the peace in Palestine in general, and Gaza in particular. So the conditions are completely different from a step up to another. We are now talking about the conditions on the ceasefire. And here, Hamas cannot dictate its conditions. And the points here is...
Dr. Boudin, there is a controversy now between you and Ms. Nacha. She says everyone can put his conditions at this point because no one has anything to lose. Israel is tired. The people of Palestine are tired and fed up, and atrocities and genocides are happening to them every day. And on the other side, Hamas and Israel have nothing to lose as well. So where do we stand at this point?
Yes, but on this...
how are we going to reach a ceasefire, and how is U.S. President Donald Trump optimistic to that extent?
Yes. Now there is pressure on Donald Trump to allow the humanitarian aid to be deployed in Gaza, at least partially. And one of the points is that there is nearly an agreement on this point. There is also an agreement on the freeing of 10 hostages, and there is an agreement to free some Palestinians. But now the point is deeper than that. The point is that nobody can impose on the Palestinians a solution, whatever it is. Why? Because Hamas cannot represent the Palestinian people today. Also, the PLO Abbas cannot represent the Palestinians today, and nobody can impose on the Palestinians unless they have a legitimate representative. Before that, and this is why the Palestine needs a state. The international community needs a state to be recognized internationally to negotiate a peaceful solution on peace base. This peace-based solution cannot be obtained
Sir,
without a state.
55 Palestinians were killed today. Which peace solution and which ceasefire are we discussing? Not to mention, nothing have been revealed yet between Qatari and US and Israel when they are in discussions, sir.
Yes, it is true that Netanyahu, he doesn't want this solution to happen. And Netanyahu is doing everything he can to destroy any possible discussion. And the Qataris today with the US and with Netanyahu are discussing the ceasefire only. But the other part, the international community are still pushing to find a solution. It doesn't mean that we have to focus on the ceasefire only, but in parallel, we have the ceasefire discussions, but we have the solution discussion. Netanyahu doesn't want this aspect. We don't have to jump in the trap of Netanyahu and to say, oh, there is no possibility for a permanent solution. We have to continue to dig for this solution, and this solution we have to see a state of Palestine emerging and recognized by the international community to have the locus standi, to be part of the negotiations. If not, no solution can stand. And Trump knows that he will not obtain a solution if there is no legitimate authorities talking on behalf of the Palestinians. And the conditions here, there will not be a Riviera in Gaza. Trump knows that. He will not obtain, he will not even think that it will materialize. He cannot move 2 million people from Gaza. The people of Gaza will remain in Gaza. The people in Palestine will remain in Palestine. What they need is to have the Palestinian state recognized internationally. France is working on that with other countries. This will happen despite what Netanyahu is trying to block or to impeach. So and they will, this time the public opinion in the world has changed. Nobody can impose on the Palestinians to leave the Palestinian territories. This will not happen, and everybody knows that. But we have to see how the geopolitics are changing. And
of course, the geopolitical dynamics are changing, Dr. Boudin. Sanctioning UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese marks a historic move against a UN human rights official. In what message does Washington punishment of Albanese send to the world, and what precedent did this set for international accountability?
Well, this is a wrong move, and this is an illegal step taken against.
Wrong what, sir? I beg your pardon.
It's a wrongful act.
It's a wrong move.
Yes, it's against international law. This representative of the UN is doing its job, and it's doing its job according to international law. And she cannot be prevented from doing that. And these sanctions cannot prevent her from doing that, or cannot prevent the UN to do that. And we will see that his job will continue with her team, or without her, with her team. But this will continue because this is a need, and this is what international law is saying. I believe that actions can be taken to have this decision lifted or blocked, and before international jurisdiction, or before even American jurisdiction, because this is against international law and against the protection of the Palestinians, and they need this protection, and international law is there to protect them, even though we want to not make applicable international, and making not applicable international law is a breach of international law. And jurisdiction are there to recall this, to decide this, and this will not be effective.
That was Majid Boudin, the international law professor, and Atiba Nacha, Palestinian National Action Committee member. Thank you very much for your valuable, informative insights. That concludes today's episode of In Depth. Thank you very much for joining us, and stay tuned for more updates on Q News. Goodbye.